terrible taxi driver or a really good one shape your impressions of a city? We're here in Melbourne to find out.
Coming up on The Travel Show. I'm in Melbourne to find out why some locals feel that they're being taken for a ride by the city's cabbies.
They've just got no clue where certain places are in Melbourne or which way to go.
Plus, we're in Germany to go behind the scenes with the creators of the world's largest model railroad.
Cars are running, trains are running, everything is moving. It's a world in small.
And
later on The Travel Show with me, Simon Calder, does Paris close down at Christmas? And what's the best kept secret in Rio?
Hello and welcome to The Travel Show, coming this week from Melbourne in Australia. It's a beautiful city and it's often called the world's most livable, but there's one thing that's driving both locals and tourists to distraction, and that's its taxis. When it comes to public transport, the City of Melbourne has lots of different options for travellers, including buses, trains, and of course, a favourite for any tourist, the historic trams. But sometimes you do need to get a cab, especially to the airport because it has no rail link to central Melbourne, and according to local custom, you get into the front seat. Why do Aussies sit in the front seat?
Well, I think it's more personable. We're friendly people, and cabbies like people to sit in the front. We can talk to them. It's a friendly little thing we do.
Rod has been a cab driver in Melbourne for almost 25 years and enjoys showing off the city's attractions to tourists.
This is the Melbourne Cricket Ground, the MCG, or locally known as the G. It's important that we portray a good image to the visitors to our city because we are a great city and we want people to feel happy here and be happy with the trips they get in taxi.
Now, if I'd just arrived in Melbourne and I'd been picked up by a taxi driver like Rod, I would have formed a great first impression of the city. But some visitors aren't so lucky. Low standards among Melbourne's taxi drivers have been grabbing headlines in recent years. Official passenger complaints have included dangerous driving, sexual harassment, violent altercations over fares, and poor driver hygiene. And the locals I met gave reports that were far from glowing.
The main issue would be the cab drivers' odours or cleanliness.
They've just got no clue where certain places are in Melbourne or which way to go.
Not that I feel threatened by the taxi driver themselves, but more their ability to drive on the road.
Just as in shock as I think everyone else was.
Lauren Ridgway caused a storm on social media when she posted a photograph of her cab driver playing a game on his phone while driving the taxi.
He was actually concentrating on his phone. He had it in his hand the entire time. And it was probably for about a good 20 minutes of the journey that he was playing this game on his phone. So it was pretty shocking.
Recognising there was a serious problem, the state government of Victoria set up the Taxi Services Commission in mid-2013. Their remit is to improve the industry, and for inspiration, they've looked to the #1 rated taxi service in the world, according to an online poll of tourists by Hotels.com, London's black cabs.
The London cab service has set a world standard for the quality of service, for the quality of the drivers, the courtesy of the drivers, and most importantly, their knowledge of where to take their passengers to in the big London metropolitan area. In many senses, we'd like the Victorian taxi service to be as good as that as the London black cab service.
In order to achieve this aim, a test has been introduced for Melbourne's taxi drivers based on the famous knowledge test taken by London's cabbies.
The knowledge test is all about training our drivers in 3 areas: common courtesy, that is driver behaviour, geography, and then general driving skills.
This sounds like a great idea in principle, but in practice, it's proving more than a little difficult. Since the knowledge was introduced in Melbourne in July 2014, only a handful have actually passed, leading to fears in some quarters that Melbourne may soon face a shortage of qualified taxi drivers. A local newspaper released an online quiz with some questions from the knowledge, so I thought I'd see how I'd fare.
Well, from the sample test, it seems that there are some pretty tricky questions, and I've failed miserably. But all of this is kind of what I want my cabbie to know.
So Monash Medical Centre, that's up there in Clayton. On the south side of the CBD, okay, you've got the Swanson Street St Kilda.
Here at one of Melbourne's most established taxi schools, a new generation of drivers is swatting up to ensure they pass the knowledge against the odds.
They know that it is hard, the confidence level is low. So far, I think there is over 300 people who have made an attempt. Out of 300, there's only, I believe there are 4 people. They have been successful. So that's quite difficult for these people to go through.
The students I meet, however, seem to be fairly confident.
I think with time I can learn each and everything.
If you follow the way you've been taught by the teacher, so you will easily get a good mark.
Good luck, guys.
Confident or not, passing the tests will be a challenging task. But the question is, will this new, more stringent system bring a high standard of taxi driving in the city? Perhaps one day, tourists will speak of Melbourne's taxis in the same way that they do of London's cabs, as a great feature of the destination. But for now, it seems a distant hope, and there's a long road ahead.
Here are our travel show tips for things to think about before you book a cab abroad. Avoid being stung by an unexpectedly high fare by checking prices before you hail a cab. Sites like worldtaximeter.com and mytravelcost.com will give you a rough estimate of how much your journey should cost. Fares in different cities vary considerably. Places like Tokyo, Zurich and Berlin are among the world's most expensive places to get a taxi, while some of the cheapest are Buenos Aires, Delhi and Cairo. Getting a taxi between airports and city centres is often not the best option if you're prepared to shop around. Trains and shuttle buses can be far more cost-effective and speedier options. For example, in Shanghai, the maglev train will get you from the airport to the centre of the city in just 8 minutes.
Knowing whether or not to tip your driver can be an awkward moment at the end of your journey. In some countries, like the USA and South Africa, a tip of 10% is expected, whereas in places like Singapore and the United Arab Emirates, it's more common to round up your fare as a tip. In Japan, tipping can be seen as rude, so it's worth checking the local customs of the country you're visiting before you get a cab.
And how about a fun alternative to a taxi to get you around? In Bangkok, you can take a tuk-tuk ride, and in Delhi, it's all about the auto rickshaws. They're not generally as comfortable or as fast, but they'll help you see the city in an unforgettable way. Now for your weekly update from the world of travel. If you're a regular traveller to the US, you'll be pleased to hear that security fees that have been added to American airline tickets since July have now been capped at $11.20 per round trip. This means the charge can no longer be applied to different parts of the same journey. According to airlines and consumer groups, the cap will save travellers $60 million per year. The risk posed by drones to aircraft was brought into focus in the UK this week, when its Civil Aviation Authority confirmed that a drone had come close to hitting a plane as it was coming in to land at Heathrow Airport. The drone was said to be at serious risk of collision and did not appear on the radar. Such incidents have led pilots to warn of the real risks posed by drones to commercial aircraft. Beirut, Doha, Durban, Havana, Kuala Lumpur, La Paz and Vigan
have been chosen from a poll that aimed to find the world's 7 best cities. The new 7 Wonder Cities initiative hoped to identify the top urban centres on Earth. In Bolivia, La Paz Mayor Luis Rivera welcomed the opportunity to bring tourism to both the city and the country. Rio de Janeiro has officially legalised its first nudist beach. Following a 20-year battle, the city that's famous for its carnival celebrations has finally made Abrico Beach just one of a handful in Brazil that's officially open to nudists. And finally, as outdoor ice skating rinks become popular tourist attractions over the winter season, an unlikely spot for an ice rink has opened up in Paris. Visitors can now ice skate with views over the city from halfway up the Eiffel Tower.
Coming up on The Travel Show.
We're in Hamburg in Germany to meet the people who want to create the world in miniature.
Welcome to the slice of the show that tries to make your travelling life easier. Coming up, does Paris close down at Christmas? And are there any beaches in the UK that are properly accessible for wheelchair users? But first, chikungunya virus is spreading through the Caribbean just as the peak travel season gets underway. The mosquito-borne virus arrived on the island of St Martin a year ago and, as you may have seen reported, has since spread to Barbados, Antigua and many other islands. The effects are very unpleasant, though rarely fatal. With no vaccination available, the only protection is to avoid being bitten, best achieved by wearing long sleeves, long trousers and a hat, and assiduously applying insect repellent to exposed skin. Arsan Sajjad tweets at BBC Travel Show to say,
I'm travelling to Paris on Christmas Day for 4 days. Any tips to get the most out of my tour?
Arsan, it's a great time to visit the French capital, which will be unusually quiet, almost bereft of the tourists who normally throng the streets of Paris. That means you'll find some facilities closed, including some visitor attractions and restaurants aimed at tourists. But unlike some other European cities, public transport keeps working right through the festive season, making Christmas Day itself an excellent time to explore. Visit the Eiffel Tower on day one, whatever time you arrive. On the 26th of December, visit the Louvre. You can expect about the thinnest crowds of the year, making it easier to appreciate Da Vinci's masterpiece, the Mona Lisa. The sense of a city half asleep will continue for your remaining 2 days because it's the weekend. Now, let's hear from David Gordon, who contacted the travel show Envision.
I'm a wheelchair user. I like to holiday in Britain. My question is, are there any beaches in the UK that have long walkways from the beginning of the beach down to the sea?
David, I know the kind of walkway you're describing, but I'm at a loss to locate one for you in Britain. I've talked to some people in resorts around the UK coast, and the sense seems to be that because the tides are much more extreme than in the Mediterranean, the idea simply isn't practical. Time and again I was reminded that all-terrain wheelchairs are available at many seaside resorts. One strong recommendation from me, Port Einan on the Gower Peninsula of Wales. You can stay in the old lifeboat station, now an accessible youth hostel, and have a look at the old slipway to judge whether it might work for you. And for the nation's best level coastal path, I recommend the stretch from Whitstable to Herne Bay in the county of Kent. Next, Heinrich CW tweets from South Africa to ask,
what time of day is it cheaper to fly? Are the prices of airline tickets cheaper in the morning or in the evening?
Well, that all depends on the route you're flying, but let's take the link between Cape Town and Johannesburg, one of the busiest in the world. It's a good example of the short-haul pattern. Flights at the extreme ends of the day, departing at dawn or arriving at midnight, tend to be cheapest because passengers need to be incentivised to travel at antisocial times, and connecting transport is scarce and expensive. On weekdays, there's a morning peak for departures around 8 or 9 and an evening peak between 5 and 6. Between the two, there's a lull with fares falling. The cheapest one-way fare I could find across a wide range of dates was $86, and that applied to a flight late in the evening. Long haul, a different pattern applies. Arrivals and departures in the middle of the day are often the most expensive because of all the demand from travellers who can connect at a hub. Early morning flights are both cheap and, in my experience, empty. That's all for now, but if you've got a travel question, just email thetravelshow@bbc.com and I'll do my very best to find you an answer. From me, Simon Calder, the Global Guru, bye for now and see you next time.
Now we're off to Hamburg in Germany to meet the twin brothers who've spent the past 14 years building a huge model railroad. It's intricately detailed and covers 1,300 square metres.
If you look around, you see many things of our childhood time. We always liked to travel by train. It was so nice to look out of the window, crossing the bridges, driving through tunnels.
When I was 8 years old, we stand at the main central station here at Hamburg, and there was a steam train, and it was one of the last big steam locomotives, and now we have it here.
In the year 2000 we had a discotheque, and I don't want it to work in the nightlife for the rest of my life, so I think about what can we do after the discotheque. And I was in holiday on Zurich, and I don't know why, I went in the small train shop, model train shop. I remember my childhood, and I had the idea to build the largest model railroad in the world. I gave Garrett a call from Zurich.
And my first reaction was maybe he has a sunstroke or something like that. Biggest model railroad in the world, that's crazy.
We said we want to build the real life. So the real life is not only happiness and fun, it could be very bad. And so we decided to build some accidents. You can see very much fire in this exhibition. So behind here you can see the burning tax department from the government, and I think the people laugh. You can look through many countries. It's Switzerland, it's Scandinavia, Germany, USA. You can look over it and find many small details. Cars are running, trains are running, everything is moving, and you can press buttons to make some things running in the layout. So I think it's a world in small.
Yeah, we built the biggest model airport of the world. And it started with the very small idea to do it. And then we thought maybe it will take a year, and we have to find some solutions to bring the planes in the air, but it would be easy. And then 5 years later, many challenges, many errors later, we are very proud that we find the solution.
There were times Garrett came to me and said to me, I want to throw everything out of the window, it doesn't work, we don't find solutions, so please Freddie, don't be sad with me, but forget it. After that I had a bad night of bad dreams, and the next morning he came to me, oh, find the solution.
After half a year sitting at the desk planning Italy with pictures through the internet or something like that, we decided that the whole team should go to Italy to breathe the Italian way of life, the lifestyle, hear it. In Rome you can hear many things, and to to feel the stones and something like that.
But it's always a challenge for us because we have not enough space to build the whole Italy in a scale of 1 to 100 or something like that. So we only have to take the most important things.
For sure we will play with the stereotypes of Italy. We do it in every section.
In USA we have a house with Christmas lights everywhere, like you see in the films when you see Christmas in USA. In Finland we have a Finnish sauna where the people are going outside in the ice, and it's very cold there. So in Switzerland we play with cheese and the guys
rolling down the hill.
When we finish with Italy, we start with Monaco, and after it with France, Benelux, and then we like to build the English sector. When we finish England or Great Britain, we will see. If we go to Africa or the Middle East, to Asia, there are so many things to build.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's travel show.
Join us next week when Addy's here to take a look back at the past year here on the Travel Show. He'll be picking some of his favourite films from 2014, including the time I travelled to Copenhagen to try and join a band that's become an internet sensation.
Do join us then if you can, and in the meantime don't forget you can keep up with us while we're out on the road in real time by signing up to our social media feeds, details of which are on the screen now, or you can dig into our archive at bbc.com/travel show. But for now, from me, Crystal Arwood, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in Melbourne, it's goodbye.